what would you say? There's a system administrator out there, a data center manager, and they're thinking about moving into Flash, but they're not sure. I mean, which sort of advice would you give them in terms of how to get started, a couple first steps, things to think about, or how to select a solution? I mean, Bob, I know you do a lot of component selling, but what's your take on that? I mean, what advice would you give to that person who's thinking, hey, we're willing to invest in Flash, but how do we start to do it?
So what the advice that we give is in those cases where, for example, it's a database or an application that's running on spinning media, the initial advice we give, of course, is plug in a controller that has Flash on board that provides caching. So you get you get the benefit of Flash, and you get the very simple automatic intelligence of caching without having to modify your application, modify your operating system. So a very simple transition to do, no changes to your data set. No way do you jeopardize the data that is so precious to your company. You plug it in and you run and you see what performance deltas you get. So that is absolutely one relatively straightforward way of doing it. There are many other ways, right? Understand your application, understand where your bottleneck is. It may be a case where your bottleneck is in processing. So in that case, providing an interesting increase in either bandwidth or IOPS may make little difference. So again, you really have to understand what is what is your problem.
Lee, I mean, I guess skepticism for the data center manager, and I guess that is it true? We're living in a hybrid world for the foreseeable future, where Flash is going to be combined with spinning disks.
Fusion.io has delivered more Flash than all other vendors combined, right? And so you look and, well, why is that? Partly because we started off on the server side of the business, and server administrators and database administrators, application owners have moved much more quickly because they're less conscious to the risk conservatism that that tends to drive the storage buyer. That being said, I mean, a lot of Flash is being deployed on storage also, and we've made moves, of course, in the last year to make sure that we've got an all-Flash storage solution, as well as a hybrid solution. So if you wanted to compromise of the ability to get the cost benefits of disk matched with the performance of Flash. So what we're encouraging customers to look at is, so where are the applications, and are you looking at a server-side approach or a storage-side approach? Mm-hmm. There's certainly differences to how these are being deployed. I'll give you an example. If you take a database administrator running in an Oracle environment, they may choose to go and use Oracle replication tools. On the other hand, if you take a SAN administrator, they may choose to have HA deployed from the SAN side. Mm-hmm. And so there are certainly ways that you can think about how's the best way I can go and get Flash deployed most cost effectively and most quickly into my environment. We started out on the server side of business, but it's being deployed across storage, and that's one of the key elements of Flash. The benefits are so compelling that Flash is being deployed across both server and storage side, and that's going to happen at a very fast rate.
What's the question in the same vein? What is the question you hear the most from enterprise buyers out there? What do they want to know, and what are they quizzical about as they think about Flash? Lee.
I'm sorry, who do you ask that to?
Yeah, Lee, yourself. I mean, what do people want to know when they say, are we going to put money into Flash? It's still pricey. We buy the whole IOPS argument, but it's still pricey. Well, what do you hear from them? What do they most want to know?
We've all seen the crossing the chasm model, right, which says that there's early adopters, people out, and that was the first wave of Flash adoption, where people who really saw early on that, hey, this could just radically change our business. It's really important to be able to say, hey, here's a solution architecture that you can say, here's how you deploy in a SQL Server environment, for example. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be able to show that you're successful in SQL Server. We have some really interesting customer data showing that over 40% of our customers see a 10x or better improvement in performance based on Flash. These are the types of things that customers in this later stage, these enterprise customers, they want to see that, hey, tell me that all the risk is gone, right? That it's not scary. We've gone and proven out that Flash, like any imperfect media, can be protected through RAID, virtual sparing, all of the concepts we've used over years in disks. We've addressed all of that. So now it's just a matter of, hey, tell me how I can get started, how I can get deployed, and make sure that it's not going to that I'm going to be successful quickly. And that's what we're working on, focusing on, is accelerating your success in the field.
Bob, what do you hear? I know that LSI does a lot of component selling. I mean, what sort of question? What's the biggest question you think people are asking as they think about getting on board with Flash?
So, as you move away from the early people that have adapted Flash into, I would say, more mainstream enterprise, indeed, one of the biggest concerns is the risk associated with making a change. I mean, the data is the lifeblood of all of our enterprise customers. It's absolutely key and critical. So that is very, very important. So I think clearly the first step is to do some simple deployment where they do some testing and do some evaluation, wet their feet, get really comfortable with it, and see that it is not introducing additional dangers into how they manage data. So again, the motivation comes from really two areas, right? There are those people that truly need it because they're hitting performance issues with some of their existing tools and applications, and they are much more amenable to a rapid discussion and rapid deployment. And then there's that other set that see this as a trend and recognize that their workloads are going to increase radically as big data moves into their enterprises, generating much more applications and richer things that need to be delivered. So they're looking at the trends and recognizing again that I see a trend, it's happening, it's now time to get involved and do some testing. So I think indeed we're crossing the chasm. I think we've reached the other side. I think over the next several years now we're going to see very broad deployment of Flash in the enterprise.